Today I want to talk about the mind-body connection, but I want to talk about it in a slightly different way from how it's normally presented. And I was inspired to speak about this when I recently interviewed Shana Francesca, who's an incredibly creative, groundbreaking interior designer who looks at your whole life, looks at how you want to live your life when designing your home. She doesn't have any set style. She works with the clients, but interestingly enough, it wasn't what they told her about their home that makes the biggest impression. It was watching their body language. And she shared with me when she was looking for what a client needed and whether or not there were any problems with the flow of the house. She said quite often she would see a client flinch before they entered a room, or if they didn't flinch, they fidgeted when they were in the room and they would almost rush to get Shana out of there. And from that, Shana knew there was a problem. Now, this may seem a little self-evident, but it started me thinking about the mind-body connection when the body is trying to send our mind some signals and we just don't quite get them. Now, I think I've shared with you before a story when I had a senior role in a software company. I was the marketing director. And it was a very exciting position and I was responsible for new products, but I came from a different background from software. And although I like what software does, I don't find software itself intrinsically very interesting. And every Tuesday, the special IT supplement would be out in a newspaper in my hometown. And I would deliberately buy the paper and read that section while I was eating my breakfast. And inevitably, I felt nauseous. Every time I just opened the supplement, I didn't feel great. And I thought, okay, well, this is a bit of a sign that I'm probably not in the right job or not in the right job for the long term. It was my equivalent of flinching when I went into a room. Now, the challenge is that quite often with the mind-body connection, we wait until the signals are far too loud to ignore, but often it gets to a point where it's dangerous in terms of our health. So I dived in and did a little bit of research on how exactly stress manifests itself in the body, what kind of signals the body tries to send to the mind, and I was actually really surprised how serious the conditions are that can be linked to a mental health issue. So they include heart disease, psoriasis, diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, and a couple of others that you really don't want to enjoy that are also on the list. And it started me thinking, well, how can I use feeling forwards to share when you should look out for a situation that you need to leave? And what is the difference between feeling unwell or feeling stressed and feeling awkward, which can be a sign of growth? So I think there's a big difference between uneasy and awkward. We've all met someone, whether or not it's in a social or a work context, that makes us feel uneasy. And that is a definite clear signal that for whatever reason, their company may not be appropriate for us. But on the other hand, I write a lot about feeling awkward because so many successful people say that they felt incredibly awkward when they were on the verge of something new, a big breakthrough, a big discovery, or even just coming up with an idea. Because feeling awkward is a sign that you're doing something you've never done before, you're potentially being stretched and you're growing. And in fact, it's a fabulous quote in a very early podcast in season 1 where this incredible Renaissance man, entrepreneur Magnus, said, once we were feeling awkward, we were on the way to doing the right thing. We knew this was a sign we were onto something great. So I just wanted to share with you Shana's example of flinching before you walk into a room, because I think sometimes a negative mind-body connection is way too subtle and we push it down. I don't know how many people I have met and coached who became unwell because they weren't coping with a particular situation, but I put it down to stress. If there's a situation that makes you uncomfortable, or you're in a job that you seem to constantly have a sniffle, or you constantly feel tired, there is a reason. I remember during the depths of COVID, when sadly my hometown was in lockdown, and I started a fabulous Friday night virtual drinks, and I used to catch up with fellow female entrepreneurs and founders, and we used to talk about our week and how we were trying to rebuild after everything that we previously done in person that got cancelled. And one of the common themes was that everyone was incredibly tired. And I thought about this, and I thought about the mind-body connection. I thought, well, actually, it's logical, because we're in fight or flight all the time. Our bodies are in stress all the time because we're faced with these incredibly unfamiliar situations. We're uncertain about when we're going to be out of lockdown, what's happening with COVID, and all these things. So being even subconsciously on a high alert all the time is completely exhausting. And then I understood what the connection was, and it was easy to explain. But I would love you this week to think about, is there any situation that's like a room? Is there any situation that's making you flinch when you walk in? And is it time to use feeling forwards and look into the future and see whether or not that situation really is part of your future, and maybe what steps you can take to extricate yourself? So I know I've come on a very different tangent this week, but I believe that our intuition and our instinct are two of our greatest secret superpowers, and we don't always pay enough attention to. Until next time.